Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Creating a Service Data Access Object, DAO, layer for MySQL CRUD operations in a REST API involves several steps. In this tutorial, we'll use Java with Spring Boot as our framework, and we'll cover the following components. 1. Project setup, setting up a Spring Boot project. 2. Model, creating a data model for our entity. 3. Repository, creating a DAO layer using Spring Data JPA. 4. Service layer, implementing business logic in a service class. 5. Controller, creating a REST controller to handle HTTP requests. 6. Testing the API, using Postman or similar tools to test the API. Step 1. Project Setup. You can set up a Spring Boot project using Spring Initializer, https://start.spring.io, with the following dependencies. Spring Web, Spring Data JPA, MySQL driver, Spring Boot DevTools, optional for development. Once you generate the project, import it into your IDE. Step 2, Model. Let's create a simple entity model for a user. Step 3, Repository, DAO layer. Now, create a repository interface for the user entity. Step 4, Service layer. Next, create a service class to handle business logic. Step 5, Controller. Now, create a REST controller to handle HTTP requests. Step 6, Application properties. Configure your MySQL database connection in src/main/resources/application.properties. Step 7, Testing the API. 1. Run the application, start your Spring Boot application. 2. Use Postman or another tool to test the REST API. Get http://localhost 8080/API/users, retrieve all users. Get http://localhost 8080/API/users/ID, retrieve a user by ID. Post http://localhost 8080/API/users, create a new user, send JSON in the body. Put http://localhost 8080/API/users/ID, update an existing user, send JSON in the body. Delete http://localhost 8080/API/users/ID, delete a user by ID. Conclusion. You now have a basic REST API with a service DAO layer for CRUD operations using Spring Boot and MySQL. This setup can be expanded with additional features such as error handling, validation, and security as needed.